I'll add more to it before I take any more away. Hello. All right, we're going to come up in five, three. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you. There is so much that is going on. As we are taping this show, it is Veterans Day. It is Armistice Day. That was the original uh, name of this holiday. It's interesting. Mother's Day was Mother's Day for Peace. Armistice Day means that you are ending a war, right? But now it's like we've moved into the war footing. And I think it's something that we need to think about. But certainly, we thank God for our veterans and hope that one day we will begin to appreciate the service that all people give in a society, like the nurse, like the teacher, like the garbage worker, like the farm worker, the farmer, because we're all necessary. We're all necessary. We just had a stirring conversation with Veterans for Peace and World Beyond War, those organizations. Um, and I say that as a granddaughter of World War II veterans on both sides. I know I'm not alone here, being from families that have been military families, particularly my mother. And so I just want all of my love and prayers to go to these families today, as many of them struggle with poverty. On the edges of these bases where the enlistees live, there are payday loan centers because, okay, if you went to Annapolis, if you went to West Point, if you were came to the elite corps, you tend to make money, you make more money than the walk-ons, than the enlistees. Think about that, everybody. Think about it. Think about it. And so my prayers are with us as we seek to study war no more. That to me is the ideal, really, 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 really. So let's talk about what is going on, everybody. Let's talk about what is going on. We have got this political earthquake as we're watching really the young assert themselves in American politics. They are going past parties and they're going to principle. Whoever they're going to ride, whatever horse can get them across the finish line. That's what we saw in New York with Mamdani. That's what we were seeing in Minneapolis with Omar Fateh, the state senator, who won the Democratic nomination, and then the donors of the Democratic Party convinced the party to rescind the endorsement. Think about that. 35, 36-year-old young man, state senator, whose activities in the state senate of Minneapolis have been critical in helping this state to defy the national norms. That is to say, college attendance is rising in the state of Minneapolis, Theo Hardiman and Attorney Darrell Jones and India Walton. Because his work has made it, of course, he has been the leader in this work. He didn't do it by himself, but he has led in the work to make it much, much easier, less expensive for people to go to college in the state of Minnesota. And they're going in greater and greater numbers. So think about that. Think about Prop 50 in California. Yes, the redistricting is going to go forward. What is that going to be like? But redistricting is going on all over the country. But we can say that last Tuesday was a good night, I would say, for the left. Many are saying that it was a good night for the Democrats. Okay. But really, people are not as faithful to parties as they are faithful to propositions. Affordability is the issue for Americans. Mm-hmm. Being able to afford where you live, to buy food, being able to go get an education, your health care. And so all of this really led to this political earthquake and the government shutdown. And the government shutdown was in starker relief because the Democrats, quite frankly, had such a great night. Since we are a binary system, let us be clear. Great night. So people were energized. Even as you were seeing the SNAP benefits, we saw the pause extended. It seemed that there was not the chaos in the streets that was predicted, Theo Hardiman. and Attorney Darrell Jones and India Walton, because I think that people really want some change. They don't just want the ACA to be extended. I'm hoping that we will begin to look at Medicare for all. Don't wait till you're 65. Newborns. Think about that. I think Americans are beginning to ask some questions, but then a lot of people did want their SNAP benefits are restored. But we're seeing that the Supreme Court has continued the pause. According to this story from USA Today, and it's come across the wires, they're keeping the pause on SNAP food benefits even as the shutdown comes to an end. And people are very upset about the shutdown coming to an end. It turns out that with the guidance, I would say, according to reports of the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, the Democrats caved. People are trying to figure out how did that happen. We
Hmm.
had these folks right where we wanted them. And now the people who are being interviewed on television uh, really were not going to, they wanted the pause to end. That they wanted the government to be reopened. Uh, and you knew that the government was going to be reopened because the airlines went into chaos. And so many of these airlines are contributors to the campaigns of these senators. Let's just keep it 100. Let's follow the money. In the meantime, this continuing resolution is going to come back up in January because that's when we have to have another vote on it. How's that going to work? How's that going to work, everybody? After you have been on the exchange and you see just how much your health insurance is going to cost you,
Yeah.
what's that going to look like? We have a lot to talk about today. In the midst of all of that, we're looking at 2026. We are there, everybody, 11 months and counting. Will you have access to the vote anyway?
Mm.
Because Peter Thiel says that he's not so sure that we need votes. We need a technocracy, not a democracy.
Hmm.
There's a lot going on at the same time. I know this might make your head swim, but you know what? These people, my father says that slave masters never retire. He was taking me to school one morning, and whenever my father wanted to be with me by himself, because he always had a lot of security, right? But this particular morning, he wanted me to be in the car. He just wanted the two of us in the car. And I like to get to school by about 6:30 in the morning because I wanted to get breakfast, then go to the library. I had a very, very strict regimen. But he had a meeting at 6:30. So that was great. It was downtown. As we're riding downtown, he said, "Baby, do you see anything?" As we were approaching the business area, uh, the lakefront. And we looked up at the Standard Oil building and all of these other great buildings in Chicago. I said, "No." He said, "All of the lights at the top are on, baby. The people who run the world are already up before everybody gets into the office." He said, "Today, Daddy's going to have a meeting with the chairman of the board of Standard Oil of Indiana. And the only time in his schedule and mine today that we have to meet each other is at 6:30 for breakfast." I never forgot that, India Walton. I never forgot that T.O. Hardeman, violence interrupters. I never forgot that transformation, uh, justice, transformational justice. I mean, I never forgot that, Attorney Darrell Jones. I never forgot that. Because it requires that kind of energy to hold the line on your freedom and your liberty. Oh, your liberty and freedom has not been given to you. It's something that was won, and no one wanted you to have it. So let's get right to it, everybody. Let's talk about this government shutdown. And you know what? I'm going to go to my sister beloved, my baby sister beloved, India Walton, who, wow. I mean, and you're in the thick of things because you know what? Look, everybody, she almost became mayor of Buffalo, New York by
Hmm.
knocking on the doors. What we saw Mom Donnie do was really predicated upon the campaign that she had several years ago. And she was a shock to the system. We all remember it, Daryl. We all remember Teal Hardeman. It was like, wait a minute. And then when I met her, all 4 feet 11 inches of her, I said, really? And she has frightened everybody here. And in the entire establishment? Absolutely. So help me to understand this government shutdown, because you're also a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in the middle of this healthcare discussion. Um, and Democrats kept saying, this is about healthcare.
People are going to die.
Okay.
I mean, that is the long and short of it. And I think that there are so many people who are cutting off their noses to spite their face and don't realize how many people actually benefit from the Affordable Care Act. It's going to be devastating, and not only to the health of Americans, but also to the healthcare industry. Because without Medicaid reimbursements, a lot of hospitals, nursing homes, and this is not only in urban cores, this is also in rural areas there that are going to be hit the hardest.
What's going to happen?
Places are closing. They're closing already. They're closing clinics here in Buffalo. There's a hospital in a small town not too far away from me that is already closing because people are preparing for lean time.
Mm.
So what happens when these hospitals and these clinics close? Well, in rural areas and suburban areas, what happens?
People just aren't going to be able to get the care they need. I
Wow.
mean, you have people can't work for free, right? And also people are not going to be able to afford to pay for life-saving medication like insulin and blood pressure medication and all of these things. I mean, this whole concept is utterly ridiculous. The sole purpose of the government is supposed to be in service of its people.
So when you saw the Democrats cave, essentially, well, did you see it as a compromise or a capitulation?
I saw it as a capitulation, saw it coming a mile away. That's what they do. They have health insurance. They're millionaires. They're not being impacted by this.
Yeah.
T.O.?
No, it's a sad scenario because it represents doomsday for a lot of poor people out here and some of the poor working class people as well. Insurance is a tough topic, and a lot of people just feeling uncertain about the future of their lives, and that's the reality, Santita. From what I'm hearing from the people, because I've been doing a lot of volunteer work lately with some of the senior citizens' homes. We've been giving out turkeys and giving out food to people since dealing with the SNAP. That's another topic, but when it comes to medical
No, it's
care.
all part. It's all part of the
Yeah.
same thing. This is in the same
Okay.
bag.
Oh yeah,
So
because like on
go ahead.
November, yeah, on November 22nd, we giving out about 100 turkeys on the near west side of Chicago. We're trying to help. Then I have a Latino friend. He has a food truck. He's gonna give out a whole lot of food one day next week. We're just trying to kind of coordinate it with the turkey giveaway as well. So we're doing our best to feel, step up in the gap for some of the people out here that are less fortunate. But when it comes to health, it's like, for example, not to put any hospitals on the radar, but like Jackson Park Hospital on the south side, a lot of people dread going there for whatever reason. So if you don't have health benefits, you might end up in a hospital that you may not want to go to, and the treatment might not be the same as some other
No,
hospitals.
whoa. Let's keep it 100. That's
That's
in my
right.
neighborhood. You
Right.
don't want to go there. No, because there's another hospital, the
Yes, indeed.
University of Chicago Hospital, which is a little closer to me.
Yes,
But
yes.
that having been said, the healthcare that you get at these hospitals could not be further
Hmm.
apart.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
No, I'll say it. I will
Yep.
say it, because I mean, really, no one wants to go to that hospital, and it's unfortunate because I
Right.
think the people in this community deserve to have a great hospital, aside from the University of Chicago. But we
Yep.
don't have that. And if you are anyone who goes there, no one wants anyone that they love to go there. They don't.
Yeah.
And let's
And
just
that's
keep
what
it
I'm
100.
talking about.
There are some hospitals that are like that. And
Hmm.
it makes me very sad. And I'm not indicting the people who run the hospital, because it's been under resourced,
Mm-hmm.
because
Exactly.
it's been undervalued, and the people in the community have been undervalued or devalued.
Yeah.
That's so. I know, bless your heart, he's being so careful. and nice. Bless your
Oh, no,
heart.
I'm not being too nice. The reality is a lot of situations where people they don't have they don't have the insurance, and it's tough for them because Stroger Hospital is on the west side of Chicago, the near west side. So you stay far south, the chance even Stroger is a good hospital if you can get there in time
It's a
before
great
some really.
hospital. Yeah.
Yes, a great hospital. Yes, a public hospital. So it's tough right now, Santita. A lot of people are in limbo. I use that language there. They're in limbo because of what's happening with the government shutdown. Like insurance benefits, healthcare is number one. Like I said, it should be Medicaid, Medicare for all. It should be that way.
It should be, but we're not having that discussion, Tio.
I know.
Oh boy.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's. I understand. Like in Switzerland, I believe everybody's insured in Switzerland.
Oh
Some
look,
other countries,
we're the only industrialized nation that does not have complete coverage for people. This is
right?
insane. I mean,
Yeah.
really.
That's right. That's right. So that's important, very important. It doesn't make no sense because people could probably live longer if they had better health insurance, live
Well,
much longer.
The Yale study says that this $1 trillion cut to healthcare in the United States is going to cost at least 50,000 lives a year.
Yeah, off the bat.
And we have India Walton here, who is on the front lines as a nurse. You know, so this is what we're looking at. Transformative Justice Coalition chair, and of course, host of his own radio show along with Barbara Arnwine every Tuesday on WOL in DC. WOL, Attorney Daryl Jones. Let's just start with this. Let's just start with the end of the government shutdown.
Santita, I don't think I've ever been more disappointed, more upset. I'm not upset, pissed at what was just wasted. And I don't mean opportunity wasted. This is what I mean. I mean, we have federal workers who were depending on the Democratic Party to hold the line for their health care. We have people that were depending on the party to hold the line, to finally say that you got it and that you have the backbone and the guts to step up and to and represent against this regime, against this president. And they were seeing the progress of it. And they saw Mandami. They saw the victory in New Jersey. They saw the victory, in Virginia. They saw the victory in Georgia, right? In Super Red Georgia. They saw
In
the
Mississippi.
victory. In Mississippi, they saw the victory. You saw people, coming to the Democratic Party saying, yes, fight for us. You finally got it. You get it. Fight for us. And then out of the jaws of victory, they snatch out defeat. That's what just happened. That's what just happened. And now the folks that were standing there cheering them on were saying, you're just who we thought you were. We thought you were chumps. We thought you were punks. And you backed us up into a corner. You got us believing that there was really something to you, that you really were fighting for us this time, and then you pulled it away. Well, what does all this mean? It doesn't just mean that you've lost politically. All the airports that have been shuttered as a result of the shutdown, that's on you too for when you signed up for this. The SNAP benefits that may not still come on board, that's on you too because you signed up for this. All of this is on your plate. Healthcare is on your plate. And what did you get for it? What did you get for it? Nothing. You got an empty promise. An empty promise. Not even a promise of a possibility. You got the promise that you'll have a vote sometime in the future. We don't know when, before January, as I understand it. But that's it. A vote that you know you don't have the numbers to win. Did you even extrapolate the promise of having the Arizona Congresswoman sworn in? I don't even think that was extrapolated out of all of this. So we have all of this that was there, that was in play. They were always on the side of victory, all the way up. I mean, folks were celebrating so happily on Tuesday because, they could see all the excitement that was building. They could see that the backbone, the spine was there, that the people were behind us, that, you had all of this going on. You had Mandami with his great victory. You had young people, Santita, young people that were showing up to vote. In New Jersey, and Virginia, they had an increase of somewhere between 7 and 10% of young voters, 18 to 29 years old, that showed up because they were believing in what was happening. They were believing in the fight that was going on. And you washed it all away with these 8 senators in this I'm gonna call it a backroom deal, and a backroom deal that was made by the president of the Senate, Schumer, to get this done. Incredible. It's an incredible loss. It's upsetting, and watching and being on the calls with a lot of the progressive organizations now. Many of them are calling for the resignation of Chuck Schumer. Many of them are calling for the partisan elections, to have the partisan elections for each of the 8 that broke rank. All of this now is being put in place. And I think that Brother Tio put it best. This isn't a point right now where we need to turn and cry and put our heads down. This is a point where we have to re-strategize, get back in. We know who's on our side, and we know who's not on our side. And we've got to be certain that we count heads accordingly. We understand where people are, and we take the necessary steps, because it doesn't get better from here. The hill has just gotten higher to climb in order for the Democrats in particular to reclaim the trust of the American voters, and to be able to change where we are in our position right now, because it's getting ready to get very, very nasty from here on out, as far as I can see, through 2026.
Well, I'm with Ashley King. He said, I've never seen Attorney Darrell Jones get this animated. He said, keep it 100.
Yeah.
Which he always keeps it 100, but he's,
Yeah.
and I think you're very measured. But you know what? I think desperate people have, resort to desperate measures. I don't know if anyone's been on the exchange. I have. My eyes popped out of my head. I said, oh my goodness. So this is what health insurance is going to cost. Yikes. And you know what? The continuing resolution comes back up in January. That's when enrollment closes. Not that you can't get insurance then, right? After December. But this is the time to get your insurance. And this is going to be a whole lot. And this has got you very animated. And very wound up. And I think you could only feel betrayed. You're only betrayed by a friend, by someone or something that you believed in, Darrell. What did this tell you? I mean, because you have 2 senators who are not going back. I mean, the senior citizen from my home state, Illinois, he is coming out of office. So they cut deals with the people who either are coming out of office or they will not be on the ballot in 2026, conceivably 2030. And they're banking on people having short memories. Darrell Jones.
And that's the problem, Santita. Because they're not on the ballot, they have nothing to lose. Stay with your party. Stay with the people that are in. You have nothing to lose. Stay with their party. If what you're doing,
with the party, stay with the people. I mean,
and stay with the people. Exactly. Stay with the people. That's it. Stay with the people. I mean, at that point, the party was with the people. So if you stay with the party, you were staying with your people. That's what it was all about at that point. And for Senator Durbin to not stay with the president of the Senate, it doesn't measure up. It doesn't measure up. And what does measure up is that there was some of that backroom, shenanigans going on. I'm going to vote no, but I'm freeing everyone else to get 8 to yes. Tim Kaine out of Virginia. Virginia is one of the hardest hit areas dealing with the shutdown, with all the federal employees that are there. The federal employees and the unions are all behind the shutdown. They were all saying, keep it shut down if we don't get the concessions with regards to the ACA in place. Keep it shut down. Keep it shut down if we don't get those considerations. Why did he change his position? Why all of a sudden did he change? That's problematic. That's problematic. And that's what I mean when I say this, what happened in this particular vote on the continuing resolution, what these 8 Democrats did, in my estimation, undermine any trust that folks can have in the Democratic Party, as well as for those that are sticking up for their interests. Because what they showed is that we're not going to stick up for your interests. We're going to cave in. It used to be, what is it? Trump always chickens out. Well, you know, I don't know if there's a DACA or not, but here it's showing that the Democrats here were chickening out. Every time they start moving the ball up the field and they have the ability to score, they fumble. And that's what just happened.
Oh, wait a minute. You just went out. Oh, wait a minute. You just went out, Daryl. You said they fumbled.
Yeah.
Okay, you said they fumbled, and they fumbled.
Yeah,
And
he went
they
out.
fumbled. That's
Did,
right.
did
They
they
moved.
fumble or did they throw the ball away? Or did they just pass it off to the other team?
Doesn't make a difference. We don't got the ball anymore.
Yeah,
Whether
no,
they threw an interception, fumbled the ball, they screwed it up.
I don't think that. I mean, because I think this was purposeful. Because
Yeah.
when I look at you were nodding vigorously in agreement with Attorney Daryl Jones. What struck you, India?
I mean, I would argue that the party is not with the people and hasn't been with the people, at least not people like me, right?
Mhm.
The party is with the donor class, the corporations, the millionaires and billionaires. And what we saw is this movement rising around Zohran Mamdani and his campaign in New York. And they wanted to give us the perception of them standing up for working class people because they see how popular that message is and how it's been able to activate and motivate a young, excited voter base, because they want to take credit for that victory, but it's not theirs to take credit for, right? That was an organizing effort of young people in a multiracial and multi-generational coalition of people who pushed that forward, not them. The Democrats and the Republicans, for the most part, I'm not going to say all of them because we have some good ones in there, but the corporate Democrats and Republicans serve the same master.
You know, it's interesting because I'm looking at the Democrats did not want to go with the people's choices. They didn't do that with you, India, Omar Fateh, Senator Fateh in Minneapolis, Mamdani in New York. I mean, we're always. I saw it with Reverend's campaign. I saw it with Bernie Sanders. That's both of my brothers have always run against the establishment when they ran for Congress. I mean, I'm like, wait a minute. And then you want me to call myself a Democrat, but the Democrats don't follow the people. I'm supposed to follow you. That logic is off. That's not what I'm supposed to do. I mean, Theo Hardiman, you know this because you're a Chicagoan. But this is not a Chicago issue. This is in Buffalo. This is in New York City. This is everywhere. This is in Washington, D.C.
Well, mainly if you don't go with the good old boy system, you get thrown to the curbside. It happens all the time. This Democratic Republican conflict, I'm gonna use the word conflict, it's lowering the morale of a lot of people. I'm happy to see young people coming out to vote, but I hope the young people do not get caught up in this here conflict, the two different sides, because, you know, like it's an African proverb, when the elephants fight, the grass suffers, okay? They stumping all over the grass, which means the people suffer. It should be principles and the people over politics. But right now we got this tick for tat. I'm going to do this and you do this. I'm not for this. And what about the people? That's what it comes down to, right? And so it's a hard time right now as far as the perceptions out there in the universe on the political landscape, all right? The brother that won in New York, like you said, a lot of people, obviously he won the people over. I want to say that he won the people over all the way. I put a post up the other day, Santita, on my LinkedIn. I said now, and I put it straightforward, with the people across the United States vote for an African-American person, male or female, with 34 convictions in their background. And I knew the answer would probably be no. And the reason I'm talking about a lot of people did say no. I got a lot of traction on that post, and I actually had an interview on my radio show about it. So the point I'm trying to make—
your radio show comes on from
every Sunday morning on WVON 1690 a.m. every Sunday morning. It's early morning. We got a real good audience with about 10,000 people listen, and the Facebook page is blowing up in calls. The phone never stops, never stops ringing. In other words, all praise is given to God. But I want to say this because I believe that one of the parties out there, they're so worried about trying to be politically correct all the time, so they end up losing a lot of people because some people are looking for just down home, regular kind of people to support. They're not looking for nobody to be perfect out here. Now, one thing Donald Trump has done directly and indirectly by him having 30, I know we're not talking about Donald Trump, I'm just making an example here. By him having 34 convictions in his life here and all the chaos he created, he became the president anyway. Now, are the Democrats ready to support somebody? I'm not saying all the way like Donald Trump, but somebody that might have some other type of flaws. I mean, that's a legitimate question if you ask me. I don't think so. I just don't think so. A lot of times people are playing to the donors, like the young lady was saying, the billionaire class, all the people that have special interests. So here we go again. We're going to always end up in a situation like this right now. And some politicians are going to, like say, some senators are stepping down now. So they'll break ranks without a doubt. Because see, right now, who cares about the people now? I'm breaking ranks. I'm getting out the way. I did my bit. So right now, I'm just going to go on and go out this way. All right.
Well, it helps me. It makes me question, quite frankly. What, India? What were you about to say?
Oh, I was going to say the biggest scandal in my race in 2021 was unpaid parking tickets.
Right.
For you.
Right.
For
That's
me.
what I'm talking about. Right. That's crazy. That shouldn't even be a scandal. It shouldn't even be a scandal. Okay.
It isn't a scandal. I mean, they tried to scandalize Brandon Johnson because he and his wife, he's got a wife and 3 children, and they both work every day. And he had to go on a payment plan with the utility company.
Right.
Hello, are you serious? I've done that before, but if that's a scandal, okay, I'm not mad at you. It's probably why I have my place on 0 degrees right now, but that's another story.
With all politicians now, if they were, let's bring law into politics for a minute. They can use the Trump law. We voted, in other words, I'm trying to make a point that we use, look at what Trump did. So how can you be tripping with me? I'm serious. How can you trip with me about parking tickets and all that stuff?
Look, let me tell you something. A lot
they
of
can cite the Trump law.
but no pun intended. A lot of what they charge Trump with, I took umbrage with that because people play with, real estate is like it's Vegas. It's a Ponzi scheme. You have a high value when you're trying to sell, but when you're trying to save on taxes, you set the value real low. Okay. And everyone, he owns a building. So if he says he has 20,000 square feet, they could be on different floors. Look, stop it. Just stop it. Because everybody plays that game. Enough. Okay. If you don't want him to run, and I said this, and Dwight McKee, God rest his soul, we said this in real time. If you don't want him to run, sit him down, cut the deal, and be done with it. Stop playing a game because so many people, not just in politics, all around you are unconvicted felons. So get out of here. That every indictment and every conviction is political. So just stop. Okay? You don't have drug busts on college campuses. So just stop. Okay? With all these wealthy people going into Black and brown communities to buy drugs, they're never stopped. They're never tailed in and out of these neighborhoods, knowing good and well that you don't live over here. So enough. My question for you now is, okay, because we are looking at healthcare, but at the same time, they're playing games with the vote. I mean, as we're walking into 2026, okay, we're talking about this, and we should be. But I think our ask is wrong because we're not even demanding Medicare for all. All we're doing, the Republicans do have a point. This is a giveaway to the healthcare companies. But where they are being dishonest is that this was always from the Heritage Foundation, which is a right-wing think tank. And it became Romney Care, which became Hillary Care, which became Obamacare. So the corporatists have been trying to sell this healthcare plan all along. But it's not what we need. The number one driver of bankruptcies in the United States is still healthcare costs. Yeah. Everybody is an illness away from needing crowdsourcing. Just come on. But see, now we're looking at the vote. Because see, now we are in 2026. We're here. So my question is now, what do we do? Well, no, but I can't run that far ahead because Daryl, we have January. What do you think? Let me get before I get to the vote. What do you think is going to happen in January when this continuing resolution comes back up? I mean, do you think that the Democrats have any bargaining power?
Well, they've already bargained away their power.
Oh.
I mean that's gone. They you know they're showing themselves to just be weak. You know, and that you know they're not. Yeah, the thing about when you start giving up on your position, no one knows what to believe about you anymore. You know, if you're willing to give and you're constantly willing to give, why would I not take a strong stand and just stay where I am? You know, if you're the Republican Party, you've never moved, and they blink every time. Why wouldn't I just stay where I am and wait for you to blink? Because you're going to blink. It's just a matter of time. You're going to blink. So when January comes around, you're going to see the same situation. You know, you're going to see the Republicans that are in control. They're going to say, we're not going to blink. We're not going to move. And, you know, of course, you're going to have, you know, the hand of Trump that's on top of the Republican Party saying, y'all definitely not going to move. Where is that going to be for the Democratic Party? How are you going to herd the Democratic Party into a position of being consolidated? And that's what's missing. You know, Santita, there's a statement that you make all the time, and I can never remember part of it, but part of it is that Republicans get in line, right? And that's what they do. They fall in line.
Democrats fall in love, and Republicans fall in line.
Okay.
And that's a large part of
and I get that from my soror and the former national president of Delta Sigma Theta and Congresswoman, former HUD Secretary Marsha Fudge. She was on my show, and she said, "Look, y'all, this is politics. This ain't tiddlywinks. Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line." I got you. Okay.
Yes.
And that's what you're going to see happening again in January. The Democrats are not going to fall in line. They're you know, the same folks that are there are going to be there, and the question is going to be, will there be any difference? Will there be a difference? What will they do in January that's going to make a difference? And I don't know the answer, because you're going to have the same leadership in all probability in place for the Democratic Party. If you have the same leadership in place, what is it? The definition of insanity? You know, to do the same thing constantly and expect a different result? You need different leadership if you want a different result. It's been proven time and time again that this leadership on the Senate side is not, you know, coming up with the results that the Democratic Party and the Democrats demand and that the people want to see put in place. If you're not getting the results from the people that you've elected, what do? You find someone to run against them. You need to replace them. You know, that's the answer. And you know, until Senator Schumer is willing to step aside, right, and allow someone else to pilot the ship, we're going to be seeing the same result. We need new leadership.
Should he step aside or should he be removed? You know, power can
I'll start with
demand, right? And it never has. It never.
Well, I would start with them stepping aside, right, and then allow the state of New York to decide if he needs to be removed.
Well, I mean,
but
I mean, removed from leadership.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not because you're right. You know, even the congressman from New York who went to jail, who was just pardoned, who was removed by the House.
George.
I didn't agree with that. I'm like, wait a minute. His people put him in. Let his people take him out. That's not your role to expel anyone. So what do you I mean, is he the right person? Ro Khanna has called for not his removal from the body, but his removal from leadership.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think?
And I think there are two pieces to it. Number one is that, you know, I would completely support his removal from leadership just based on a number of decisions that we've seen come from him over this past couple of years or past year. But more importantly, the bigger question that's the follow-up to it is, with whom do you replace him? You know, who is in waiting? Who would have the knowledge, the institutional knowledge to know the strategies and everything else to get around? I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head. But if that person is in place, he or she is in place and ready to excel and succeed in that leadership role, then I'm full in favor of it. There's a part of me that says I'm willing to give someone a shot that isn't 100% ready, but is 90% ready. Because, you know, if I'd rather have somebody that is 90% loyal and 70% administratively accurate and ready than have someone that's 90%, you know, in the opposite way, that they know the process, but they're not as loyal. Loyalty to me is the top tier. And what Schumer has shown to me is a lack of loyalty, if in fact what has been reported to be is accurate. And that is that he was okay with these 8 people abandoning the ship and abandoning the people in the middle of this time. That's problematic. That's a lack of loyalty. I need somebody that's give me that loyal dog to be in the fight every time.
Well, you know, the report is that he wasn't just okay with it; he helped to engineer it.
Yeah.
That to
Yes.
me, that's the betrayal.
Yes.
That was the word. That's a betrayal. And that also begs the question, too, is why have you been in office this long and you have not created a succession pipeline? You've not mentored anybody. There's no rising star that you're, you know, trying to make sure that once you leave your office, you know, let's be real about it. Nature happens like any day. That seat could be vacant. So like, I just don't know why we have people who are treating these offices as lifetime positions. It's selfish, it's greedy, it's not working.
Tio, so
No,
what do you think?
No, I think that's a big issue that we should take on. It happens in the, you know, all different, in all the different communities. In other words, you have leadership in office, congressional level, Senate level, and they wait until they end up passing away in those positions, and they don't groom anybody to take them seats over. It's very, very important that we get a new flow of energy, you know, in all these different positions out there, because that's what's going to be that can tilt things in favor of the people, in other words. Because one thing about the younger generation, Santita, as far as my perception, is that they have their boots on the ground. They know what's coming within their generation, in other words. They're right there in it. So it's good to have somebody that represents the younger generation that can kind of like speak up for that group of people, in other words, right? And not taking nothing from some of the older people, don't get me wrong, but sometimes you're out of touch. You're out of touch when you're older, so because you don't have time to go to community meetings, you don't have time to be, you know, like walk the streets like you used to. So you're not really understanding what's the changing of the guard, in other words, right? So that's what I see happening with the Democratic Party. And one thing somebody was just saying earlier, the Republican Party, they stay in line, the Democrats fall in love, right? So we should come together. My whole message today, Santita, on your show is I would love to see a time come when Democrats and Republicans come together, because you have brothers on the streets gang banging. You have people in the different business CBOs gang banging with one another, but you have the leaders of the country that really politically gang banging out here, right? And so if we want people to kind of like put it in their minds, we need to be at peace. We should exercise and lead by example, that we're peaceful people. We're not going to keep going back and forth, especially when it comes down to our country, to our brothers and sisters in the United States, if that makes sense to everybody. We have to be a stronger union. And just like, for example, the conflict in Chicago with the immigration issue, I'm not going to go deep into it, but I would have loved to have seen a time where Brandon, Pritzker, and Trump would sit down. I would just love to at least try to sit down, at least attempt to do it. If it didn't work, it just didn't work. At least try to come together, show young people this is what it's all about, because we're trying to go into the next 200 or 300 years here in the United States. We have to lead by example. And that's my whole take on everything, Santita.
But you know, but Tio, what it's all about really is the militarization of the society and controlling dissent. So they were not going to have an agreement on that. I mean, this is about something I think that's bigger. That's why Chicago is being pressed upon. And because it's the most organized political city in the country. The Democratic machine. Richard Daley was a genius. He literally has Chicago organized to the house on the block.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Richard Daley's been gone 50 years. The city's still that organized. Now
Oh yeah.
the counterweight to that was Reverend and his independence. What was emerging was Fred Hampton and the Black Panthers, but it Reverend was able to really flower. It reached fruition with his work, and so you were able to counter that in a progressive way. Um, but this, I would love to see the so-called right and the so-called left come together, but I know that they're two wings of the same bird. I think we're seeing that
Mm.
because I don't hear anyone calling for Medicare for all.
Yeah, I don't hear that. Right.
And we're the only industrialized nation that does not have it. I mean, and the lies that are being told about healthcare, like you're caring for. I don't like the term illegal. I don't like it because I don't know of an illegal human being at all. That having been said, it was Reagan in 1986 who instituted the policy that if you get sick in America and you show up in the emergency room, you get treated. That that's not a Democrat. That was not instituted by a Democrat. And somehow or
Yeah.
another, it's become this big lie. In the meantime, now Democrats are deflated.
Mm.
I mean, you hear Daryl. Daryl. People are struck by your passion. Not that you're not passionate, but I think it's a sense of betrayal that we see. That
You do.
is like, yeah, I hear you, and everybody feels this way. And all of the people, and when you look at corporate media, they're not explaining that the folks who they have sought out to talk about, to discuss this with, who say, well, we were never going to win, they were never on our side in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're looking at 50,000 unnecessary deaths a year, 20 million plus Americans who will not be able to afford health care, health insurance. And you know who is going to win? The health insurance industry.
Every time.
And those people who say that there are too many people in the world and excess deaths are coming anyway. So you all have to help me with this one because I need some help because I think and what's particularly cruel, India, is that after last Tuesday, when you saw victory after victory after victory, for the Democrats to do this, after you saw victory, from coast to coast, in Mississippi, these folks ended the Republican supermajority. That's huge. And they did it without help from the Democratic Party, really. Now, you know that, Daryl. That's real, right? They did this, because Black Mississippians roll like that. They went from door to door and they organized, and that was it. So, I have, about 7 or 8 minutes left here. Let me start with you, Tio.
And I'm just pushing for peace, Santita. The holidays are coming up. It's a new year on the horizon. Let's try to bring it together because people out here suffering. I have my own view on the immigrant situation because I figure if you came over here illegally, you should go back and come back over here legally, in other words. But recently, since I've been seeing all these raids and the way they treating people in an inhumane way, I kind of shifted a little bit on my, my perception of that situation there. So, but when it comes down to, yeah, go ahead, Santita.
No, I was asking you how so.
Well, I shifted because people should always be treated in a humane way. I've seen babies being pepper sprayed and people being, thrown to the ground, dragged on the ground. I'm not going to go for that kind of stuff. I don't like when people compare it to what my forefathers went through during the transatlantic slave trade, because I think that was a total different type of levels of atrocities that were committed. But in bringing us all the way back up to date, that's why I shifted when I saw what the people really, really dealing with out here. The problem is with the border. Strengthen your borders, in other words, because once the people get here, we got to do our best to work with everybody. That's just the way I look at it now, Santita. So I've shifted a little bit myself, all right? But and at the same time, I'm pushing for mass unity amongst both parties across all different lines, the young, the middle-aged, the older people. Let's just come together and protect our people in the healthcare arena and economically and in every kind of way we can. It's very important.
Yeah, well, you see what we're doing with Venezuela, and so you can understand why people are being run over here because we're trying to destabilize their government. I mean,
Exactly.
if they did that to the United States, we'd be running to Canada.
And then a lot of people don't know about what's happening over in Venezuela. See, so I've been educated. I always knew about it, all the oil over there and what's going on, how we destabilize their government. A lot of people on the ground level do not have that information, though.
But have I not been trying to say that?
You say it all the time.
And I've been trying to tell you this. These folks, they're not running to America. They're being run out of their homes. There's a difference.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, it's just like we didn't immigrate here. We were brought here. We got a different narrative here.
Mhm.
Attorney General, but of course, every Sunday from 6 to 7 a.m., of
Yeah.
course, you can find TOTIO Hardiman, HARDIMAN, on
Yes.
Facebook. You can go to WVON. That's WVON, the Voice of the Negro, iconic talk radio station here in Chicago.
Right.
From 8 a.m., 6 to 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, of course, just before Keep Hope Alive on iHeart. So we love you. And of course, your latest book is?
Yeah, Interrupting Gun Violence and Death of an Addict, Resurrection of a Man.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Attorney Gerald Jones, what say you?
Well, Santita, if you've ever been a fighter and you've been punched in the gut, it hurts. It hurts. But you don't stop fighting. You get yourself together and you go back in the ring and you start swinging some more. We've got to appreciate the victories that we had on Tuesday. They said that New Jersey was going to be within a point or two. It was all the prediction that the black voters weren't coming out. Well, what happened? Black voters showed up, in record numbers. And catch this, 92% of the black men that voted Democrat in that election. 97% of the black women that voted Democrat in that election. That's the reason that you had such a large victory there in the Democratic column in New Jersey. Similarly, you had young folks showing up in New York. You had blacks showing up in New York. You had similar numbers showing up in Virginia. So you had all these breaks and these gaps that they were expecting to be close that weren't close at all. And as you mentioned, you had the victory in Mississippi, the victory in Georgia, the Public Service Commission. You had all of these victories that were going on. I say all this to say this, Santita. We have got to recognize and understand and appreciate that we need to govern from the bottom. It's the bottom up, not the top down. So long as we can get out there and vote and put people in places and offices that will stand for us, stand with us and stand for our issues and at the table fighting for us. That's what we need to do. We need to now double down on it because we've seen the victory. We've seen the possibilities. We've seen the doors start to crack open. And now we need to get into 2026 and slam that door wide open. And let's get out there. Let's get registered. Let's get voting. Let's get those people in place so that our issues are fully represented and litigated there in the capital of the United States.
Well, you know what? You will be closing us out. And William Miller from Buffalo is saying hello to you, India.
Hi, William. Hey.
William, I hope you'll return back to the show. You said you love listening to it. We try to have this kind of talk all the time because we need independent media. We really do. I thank all of my friends at AM 950 Radio for allowing this show, for giving the show a platform. So what are your thoughts, India? And I promise you, I'm going to get you back tomorrow, Gerald, so we can talk about the vote. Because that's a big deal. But you know what? I hadn't realized, I hadn't heard you vent about this. And we can't get to the vote. We can't get to 2026 until we get to this because we got to still deal with this in January. And after people see these price hikes, which they're going to let stand. I mean, India, they wouldn't even swear in Congresswoman-elect Grijalva. I mean, who has ever heard of anything like this? This is it's lawless.
Yeah. And I mean, like the call for unification is nice, but it's virtually impossible. These are not reasonable people, right? When we talk about children going to bed hungry and you have folks in the comments section saying, this is what I voted for. If you can't afford to feed your babies, then don't have them. And yet there's this panic about low birth rates, right? Like these are people who don't have logical reasoning, and all of their beliefs and values are rooted in racism and bigotry. And the reason why we don't call for universal health care in this country is because we have others. When you look at countries like Sweden and Norway, they're very homogenous. Everyone looks the same. Everyone deserves housing. Everyone deserves health care. I mean, just look at the discourse around SNAP benefits, where you have people saying, well, I'm glad because I don't want my tax dollars going to pay for eyelashes and fingernails, right? That's a dog whistle, meaning that they believe that Black, Indigenous, and people of color are somehow lazy and they're paying for a lifestyle when the opposite is actually true. So until we deal with our racism problem in this country, until we find class solidarity, and until white people can figure out that a working class white person has more in common with a working class Black person or an immigrant American than they do with those rich people who are stealing from all of us, stealing our labor, stealing our wealth, stealing our time, and stealing our joy, then we're not going to get anywhere. I don't care how many elections we get through. And the last thing I want to say is that Democrats need to stop punching left, stop punching down on progressives, and welcome us in, because we have the message that is resonating with working class voters. More people voted for Zohran Mamdani on the Working Families Party line than voted on the Republican line altogether. Now that says something, because that means that people are breaking away from this duopoly and they're looking for a third choice.
Well, amen. And Ashley King, who's not even from Buffalo, said, I love my people's mayor, India Walton. We need people like you. At the end of the day, you're fighting for us. It's not about the party, it's about the proposition, everybody. It really isn't. I mean, look, I'm a registered Democrat, but I'm going to tell you, I appreciate the positions that Marjorie Taylor Greene has taken on Gaza. I appreciate the position that she's taken on health care. I mean, in principle, I agree with her. Do I disagree with her on other things? Yeah, but there's some, I disagree with Chuck Schumer on this. I don't care if he voted no. The reports show me that he actually was the yes, who pushed people to capitulate, to cave. And now a whole lot of people are not going to live. You think about that. And you think about that when you decide not to vote. Yeah, Donald Trump got about 78.5 million votes. Kamala got 77 million, but 90 million of us decided not to vote. And you know what? But when I see garbage like this, I get it. I really do. But that's not the answer, y'all. That's not the answer. That's not the answer. The answer is getting involved. The answer is now calling 202-224-3121. Isn't that right, Daryl?
That's it.
That's number 2, the Congress. You let them know that when this comes up, again in the House, they need to shut this down. You need to let them know. You need to let them know how you feel. You let them know that you will, if go on the exchange, everybody. Let me know if you're going to be able to afford health care. You know, more and more of these jobs are offering fewer and fewer benefits. Yep. My brother is in the U.S. House of Representatives. He has to go on the exchange. Yeah. His staff get better benefits than he does.
Wow.
He gets his health insurance on the exchange. And for the record, he has foregone pay until his staff can get paid. So, but Hakeem Jeffries has, and other congresspersons have been able to do that too. So this is serious business, but this is so much bigger. Think about it. These people are willing to starve people out and deny them health care. That's how desperate the oligarchs are, because they're the ones who run the place. Mm-hmm. And if they're willing to push this far, then you must be that close to making real change. So now, if you want health care, if you want Medicare for all, now is the time to demand it. If you want to create a floor beneath which no human being can fall, now is the time to demand it. If you don't, you're going to feel it. And remember, people get the leadership that we deserve. Think about that. So I love you, everybody. God bless
All right.
you.
Peace to everybody.
Ooh, that's right. Peace.
Good evening,
Peace,
y'all.
peace,
All
and
right.
love, 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 love. The Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota.
All right.